It takes game one here, but if we break it down, we got to acknowledge that early game, it wasn't ideal for them. Props them for turning it around, because all the lanes were under pressure, and it was showing in their decision-making for TSM.
You know, they really focus on getting the Annie ahead so that she can buy the engage items, as you mentioned, and were able to get the picks that they needed and really force a lot of team fights. Now, they struggled with these team fights in the mid-game and could have probably forced a lot more in the early game. But as the late game came down, every single flash from Lustboy was winning team fights left, right, and center.
Yeah, I really like the decision-making from TSM in the later game. They got themselves back into the matchup by chilling in the bush, sort of baiting Team WE into a fight, and then punishing them for being over-aggressive. But the opening 20 or 30 minutes, there was a lot of indecision and not really committing, which TSM, I think, may have shaken off, because at the end of the game, they really went in.
I think that the early game clearly went to WE. They had enough openings, and just I think that their one fight in mid lane basically decided which direction this is going. I think they had a really good comeback from the early game with that setup, like you mentioned already at Drake, where they got a double kill and then chased the Sion down. But overall, I think I was seeing no Mikael's Crucible on that Janna, and I think it was very essential to have that versus Danny.
In the late game team fights also, because it seemed like the questionable decision making from TSM early shifted to a questionable decision making in team fights for WE later, and we have a replay from one of the crucial, or the crucial over-engage, let's call it that, for WE, and the way TSM played it.
They have a bottom lane inhibitor, and they don't need to commit right here to really getting this tower. You know, the wave is going to push in eventually. They're not patient, and now eventually Annie's going to go with a full rotation of stuns, and Ahri is going to get stunned by the Annie. And then now, with the lockdown of Vi, this is the problem when you run a double threat composition and one of your threats gets taken out in the beginning of the fight. You no longer have any damage, and TSM has pretty much 5 threats on their team. You need to kill all of them, and once this fight has happened, all the CC in the world won't matter, and TSM makes a comeback with this.
Yeah, and final thoughts about this game. For me, as for Team Solo Mid, it must be very hopeful to know that even if they're not dominating in any of the lanes early, they can pull this off under pressure, Trevor.
Yeah, I think as a team, they really showed their ability to play from behind, their ability to adapt to their opponents in the game. Initially, with the team comp, you felt TSM was going to be engaging. They didn't really do that. They didn't actually play to what champions they picked themselves into. But then once they actually found some opportunities in the later game and they did hit those item breakpoints, then they started making use of it. TSM played around their flashes, I feel, far too much. And we'll need to see them adapt for that in the second game of the series.
Yeah, I think we might even go to 5 here, because WE was looking good as well until up there at the end. And by the way, guys, if this goes to 5 games, we are all staying here until we see a team lift that trophy. So we'll be back after the break with game 2.